Welcome to Catholic Homeschool Radio, where we begin conversations to help parents enrich their lives and make practical decisions for the future.
Welcome again to Catholic Homeschool Radio. Your host, Priscilla McCaffrey. I'm delighted today to have one of my nieces on the show. I have about 90 nieces and nephews from both sides of the family, and each one of them comes with an interesting story. Elyse is the same age as our youngest daughter, so Monica and she have had lots of fun together over the years in St. Louis, in Florida, and even for a little bit up in Connecticut. Elise has not been homeschooled, but what we like to do here at Catholic Homeschool Radio is visit with those happy Christian nonconformists that we know who have pushed up against and sometimes out of the conventional social envelope and done something unique. Elise, at age 17, started a pro-life club in her public high school and has lived to tell the tale. Welcome, Elise.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure. As you know, she's off campus today, so I'm thrilled that she and her brother are here, and I hope it's not just because you are desperate for a home-cooked meal, but maybe you are. That's okay, too. So first, let's talk about your high school. I'm not sure. We don't have to name it. We can just describe it, and we don't have to name some of the teachers involved. Mm-hmm. That's not so important, and we don't want to upset anyone. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a shame that we even have to be careful about these things, but that's why we're having this program to begin with, because we don't want people to think they have to be more cautious than necessary. But we all have to pay attention to what is going on today and who might suffer from what. So, Elise, you went to the same high school I went to, mm-hmm. and it's a nice public high school. It's considered an academically good high school. Mm-hmm. It's in a pretty town, a few minutes outside St. Louis proper. The town is desirable, with undesirable property taxes to support the school. So I wonder what the taxpayers would think about a young lady starting a pro-life club in her school. So we don't really know what they thought, but so let's talk about what that was like. When did you get the idea to start this?
It began with just family conversation around the dinner table. My sister Amelia actually said, we can't have all 8 of us go through that school and not start a pro-life club there.
Yay!
And so it ended up that my little brother and I were the only 2 left. And so I decided, well, I have to uphold the family legacy.
The honor of the family. Amelia had, good for Amelia. Okay. Yep. I think that's great. That's what, good big families are to do, is challenge mm-hmm. each other in good ways. So she neglected to do that herself. Right. And maybe it wasn't the time, who knows.
Right.
But I doubt that it was that easy for you. So you decided, okay, a pro-life club. Did you have any resources to go to? Anyone to model yourself after?
When I decided to do it, I got onto Students for Life of America email list.
Is that a college list, or is that high school and
It's
college?
High school and college.
Okay.
So I got onto their email list, and I found a leadership summit that was going to take place at St. Louis University. And I went there with a couple of my friends, and we talked to the regional coordinator and said, we're thinking about starting up a club. And she said, well, once you officially become a club, I'll give you all of the resources you need. Uh-huh. And it had, different ideas for meetings and events that you could hold in the school.
Uh-huh. And this would be a model for public schools as well as private schools?
Yes, inside the binder, it discussed different problems you might have if you're in a private or public school.
Okay. So you did that. So you had a little clutch of friends who would be behind you. And then how do you start a club at your public high school? How would you start any club at the public high school?
So there's a form that you had to fill out, and you needed, I think it was 60 student signatures.
Oh, okay.
So you just had to go around and ask random kids around the school. I went to the cafeteria one day and just went up to random tables and said, "Will you please sign this?"
Did they know what they were signing?
I told them. Everyone kind of looked at me a little confused, but
they trusted you.
Yeah, they just
you just smiled and
yep,
yeah,
pretty much. And then you needed a mission statement, a president, just the different treasurer, secretary, and then a faculty advisor.
All right. And so the form was easy. The signature's easy.
Yeah.
What about the faculty advisor? Was he sorry that you crossed his threshold and asked that question?
I think a little bit. The initial conversation, I was sitting in the classroom and it was after school, and I was one of the last students in there. And I looked at him and I said, "Would you be interested in being the advisor for a pro-life club?"
Did you know that he was pro-life?
I did. He
Okay.
he has 5 children. I knew he was Catholic, and one of his sisters is a Sister for Life up in New York.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you know what her name is?
Sister Dorothy Guadalupe, I think.
Okay. Mac is having one of the Sisters for Life at his commencement, his commencement speaker. And a lot of those sisters are very brainy. One of them is a NASA scientist. So they have the education. They're very interesting, and they have a lot of them have corporate backgrounds, and so he was obviously in a family that understood the issues.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's very neat. All right. So, but you caused him some trouble, I'm sure, and he probably thought, okay, I should do this. What month of the year was it? Was your senior year, right?
It was my senior year. I think I asked him either late September or early October.
Okay. So you wanted to get this rolling through most of your senior year.
Yeah.
And did you chain yourself to the desks so that he would he would say yes, and then you would leave, or what did it take?
He told me that he'd have to go home and discuss it with his wife.
Oh.
To make sure that this wouldn't cause too much trouble or turmoil, because neither of us knew what was going to happen when I started it.
That's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
It is a shame. But this is one of the things, this is why we're talking about this, because it ended up being a fairly simple process, I know, for Elyse. But we really live in a society where sometimes we don't know it, but we act as if we're second-class citizens. We're looking around behind, over our shoulders to see if someone is there to whack us over the head because we've done something wrong, immoral, unconstitutional, or something that's going to cause problems for our employers and consequently for ourselves. But long story short, there's nothing illegal anywhere about starting a pro-life club. So for all those out there who are listening, go ahead and do it. And Elise is going to give us, some more details on that. But the first thing is, but people are going to say, what? Oh, is that allowed? And then, so he thought about it, and I'm sure he came back and said, sure, no problem. And then he said, well, if you must, I will put my signature to this form. How long did it take? Did you have to ask him a few times?
No, I didn't.
Bless him.
There was there was some time in between where both of us were, I guess, sort of discerning whether this was right. There were a couple weeks where I spent just talking with my family and praying the rosary, trying to figure out if this was really what I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to him and said, I'm really going to do this. And that's when he said, okay, then I'll be the advisor.
Oh, good. Okay, and then I'm sure he didn't suffer really any consequences from that. However, I'm sure in some places a faculty member would suffer, but I have a feeling it wasn't so bad for him. Okay, so then once that was all in place, did you get the go-ahead?
Yes, once I had filled out the form, I gave it to the athletic director, and he's the athletic and activities director, I guess. And then I had there's a student council meeting, and I had to go before the student council with the faculty advisor. And
how was that?
That was very uncomfortable. I had to state what the club was, and then read the mission statement, and then they had to vote on it, which technically they had no ability to say no, or no power to say no.
Mm-hmm.
They said no, I would have just said, well, it's a public
what
school,
grounds?
I can do whatever I want to,
Yeah.
really. And so I read the statement, everyone looked a little skeptical, like, we've never heard this before, what is this? And then they all voted.
What
and said yes.
What was the mission statement? I know it's pro-life, but what not word for word, but is it to support and educate people on the issues related to the beginning of life?
I think, if I remember correctly, it was to establish the rights of the unborn, to promote the dignity of all human life, and to support women facing an unplanned pregnancy.
Oh, excellent. Was that a statement you devised, or was it one that you saw in the literature for starting a pro-life club?
I took bits and pieces from different places, but
okay.
I pulled it together.
Okay, so it wasn't necessarily a unique statement. In other words, it was what other people are doing in other places too. Mm-hmm. But that seems well said. And okay, so by their own protocol, they had to say, yes, this is a worthy, or they wouldn't even say that. This can be considered, you can have a club.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which meant you could meet on school property. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what, in the end, how many different students, what kind of pool were you drawing? Well, first of all, how big is the school? Let's start there. Is it 600?
No, there are about 300 to a class.
300
so
to
it's
a class, so 1,200.
I'd say.
Okay. Okay. And then how many people were dedicated to your club?
Around the end, it was probably about 10.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay, now you say the end. Were there more numbers earlier, or was that what you built up to?
It's what we built up to.
Okay. All right. So 10 members, and then how often did you meet?
We met twice a month.
Oh, okay.
I think it was.
All right. And then what are some of the projects that you did?
So we would put up flyers around the school was the main thing that we did.
Okay, and is that what other clubs do too, to kind of raise your awareness to things?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, you were kind of like another, I know they have the LGBTXYZ and Straight Alliance kind of thing going. Is that, so they have that, or do they have other kind of clubs like that?
There was
lifestyle clubs. I don't know. I don't know how to classify them. Issues-oriented clubs.
Yeah, there was also a feminist coalition that began.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When did that begin?
Pretty much at the exact same time.
And do you think that was in response to you because they were worried that you might overpower and overwhelm the sophomores and...
Yeah, really, mine was more in response to their club.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you did it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it takes. So of the Feminist Coalition, and what were they a coalition of, or did they just think that was a cool name?
Apparently, what they told me was that they weren't allowed to name it Feminist Club. The school told them they had to choose a different name.
Oh.
I don't know if that's just what I was told. So
Okay.
they just said, okay, we'll call it a coalition then.
Well, that's interesting. So everybody has to play around with words a little bit. So you did a lot of, so the LG, what is that club?
It's called the GSA.
What does that mean?
Well,
Gay Straight Alliance. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we'll just call it the GSA. I like that better. Okay, so then you have the GSA, the Feminist Coalition, and the Pro-Life Club, and these are issues-oriented clubs, and the way they make themselves known is generally by putting up flyers, informational flyers, to raise people's awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kinds of things did you put up on the walls or on the bulletin boards? Is there a designated spot for the messages?
It's really all over the school, but there's kind of sections that are either you tape it to the wall, there's bulletin boards, but you can't just post it everywhere.
Okay.
They're kind of
You have to get permission.
designated. Yes, you do.
Okay, and so what was one of your campaigns that you were kind of happy with the things you put up on the wall?
The greatest one was definitely the heart display that we did. Where that we put it up for the anniversary of Roe v. Wade.
Okay.
And
When did they let you do that? Early January or just on January 22nd?
no, I was allowed to put it up before the
Okay.
anniversary, and it could stay up afterwards too. So it was up for about a week, I think.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the heart display when
Yeah.
the picture of the in vitro or the in utero fetus, and it's with a little beating heart. Or what was it?
Well, what we did was we cut out 330 hearts and then made a big heart out of the 330 hearts.
Why 330?
It's the number that was given to me was there are 3,300 abortions performed daily, which is,
Yeah, okay.
it's not an exact number,
No, but that's good.
that was the number they gave me.
Yeah, to a fact or something for the kids to think about. So abortion starts 3,300 beating hearts a day.
That was the caption we put next to it was 3,300 hearts stopped daily.
Oh,
And then
that's
we put a
beautiful.
little message that was said, in memory of the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, we're putting up 330 hearts, and each heart represents 10 lives lost to abortion.
Oh, did you did anybody confront you with this? How about all your friends? What did they say?
Everyone was I think everyone was a bit uncomfortable. No one really confronted me face to face, but someone decided to rearrange all of the hearts to say pro-choice. So
What they did that after
Just
school,
after school
or
one
something,
day.
and this in the main hallway in the lobby, or
no, it was on the third floor.
okay. So something they could get away with, but spend a lot of time doing, and probably some teachers walked past and saw this going on. But okay, so when they said pro-choice, and was the caption still there?
I had that taken down multiple times, so people would just walk by and rip down the sign. And
So it's not necessarily that they disagree. It's just that, boy, it makes them uncomfortable, doesn't it?
oh, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So then on that day that they were rearranged to pro-choice, were you able to get it back, or did you just take it down?
Unfortunately,
Or did you cry? I would have cried.
my friend called me
Or
crying.
did your advisor cry?
No, he did not cry.
Not yet.
My friend called me crying because a picture of it was sent in a group chat she was in, and the girl said, "Look what I just did,"
So you know who did it.
Yeah, we did know. We figured out who
One
did
of your
it.
good friends, your old friends.
No, it wasn't one of my old friends texted me that another girl she knew had done this. And so she calls me crying, and at this point, I'm in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life.
Oh, good.
So it was terrible timing in that sense because I wasn't there to do anything about it.
Yeah.
But it was done before the weekend, I think. So then the next, I'm not quite sure what day of the week it was done, but the next day, some people fortunately helped me out and they rearranged it. Or I think I asked them to just take it down because since I wasn't there, I couldn't.
Right, you wouldn't want the
look over
pro-choice thing.
Yeah, and apparently people were walking by and laughing at it that it said pro-choice. And
Did the school newspaper deal with this at all?
definitely not.
No. Yeah, free speech only applies to who?
Yeah.
Non-pro-lifers. Mm-hmm. And what about faculty? Did you present this to the administrator? I don't know.
did.
In charge, and who would that administrator be? Would that be the
It was
principal?
an assistant principal.
Okay, and what did he say?
Well, I took the instant I heard of it. My friend sent me a screenshot of the message she got in the group chat, and she sent that to me. I emailed it to the assistant principal. He got back to me and said, we're going to punish her and whatnot. So they did do a good job of
So they followed up the way
out.
they're supposed to.
Yes.
Bless them.
Yes.
Okay. And well, that's good. There should be a protocol. If people are going to put up literature on the walls, that they allow that. I'm not even saying that I think a public high school should have all this literature, but I know you and I agree that if they're going to allow one point of view, they really do have to allow the other points of view.
Right.
And they have to have a way of controlling things so it doesn't get out of hand. Mm-hmm. So good for him. So that came down. And then what else did you do?
The other poster or flyers that we put up that caused a ruckus were for National Women's History Month.
What month is that? February?
That's March.
Oh, it's March. That's right. Okay.
So even though I don't really like the idea of National Women's History Month,
right,
I knew that a lot of other clubs, liberal-minded clubs, would be putting things up about, all of the women that have supported birth control. I saw that around. And so I said, I need to put something up. And I put up posters with quotes from the early feminists, like Alice Paul and Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah.
And I think I also put up...
and those are very strong quotes, too.
Oh, yeah. I think it kind of shocked some people.
Yes, it does.
When they saw those. I put, feminist on the bottom and things like that just to really drive it home that wasn't the initial... It's
right.
not a woman's...
They weren't... abortion is an anti-woman thing.
Right.
And that would have appalled them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and then did you have Mother Teresa too? I seem to remember.
I did
a
have
quote
a
from that.
Mother Teresa quote.
What was her quote?
I think it was the one that it's like a shame to decide that a child must die so that you may live as you wish.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the one that I chose to put up.
And that's there are several, and that's one that would make people think, and I hope it did. Did you ever get any positive responses from people where it was unexpected?
I did. There were people who joined the club that, in my mind, I had thought that they were going to be liberal, but I really kind of had the mindset that everyone in that school was liberal. So it kind of would shock me when they would join, and I was like, "Oh, you're pro-life? That's awesome.
Good.
I didn't know that." I had responses from some parents, friends of different people in the group would say, I'm so happy that you started this club. So I did have positive feedback from people in the community and
that's
different
good.
teachers in the school.
Oh, really? The teachers?
It was kind of, well, they wouldn't really tell me directly, but it was more of a, I'm proud that you stood up and started this club. They didn't really say that they...
I know. Well, probably some of them were really happy that someone with a pro-life point of view was doing this. Then there's this other fake flattery that a lot of adults do today with kids. And I'm so glad you're following your passion. Yeah. It's so great to speak passionately. And I think, passionately about what?
Right.
I don't... So, anyway, but wasn't there at some point when they took your flyers down?
So there was, with the Women's History Month, I gave the posters to them for approval. And usually I give it to them. He looks at it, the assistant principal, signs it right there. I put them up. It's super easy. I gave these posters to him. He said, I'm going to have to, go run this by the principal and some other staff members, the other assistant principals, to make sure it's okay, which it really wasn't necessary to do that, but I think they were trying to find a way to keep me from putting them up.
Right.
So they go and have their faculty meeting and they approve them, but then tell me that they're starting a new rule where the posters have to be put up in only one section of the school.
Okay.
They can't be put up all around.
And this was called the Elise Buckley rule.
Right.
Where the Elise Buckley rule is that if Elise Buckley wants to put up a poster, it must be on this wall, around the corner, down the hall, down the stairs.
The farthest corner of the school
Near
that
the
no
boiler
one
room.
goes. Pretty much.
Okay. So what did you do?
So I was mad, but I didn't say anything to him at the time. I took the posters back from him and I just said, okay. And then on the way home from school, I'm telling my mom and, I'm ranting to her because I'm actually very mad about this. And she says, she's also getting very frustrated. And she says, I want to go back and talk to him. Like, is that okay with you? And I said, sure. So we just turn the car back around, go back to school. We find the assistant principal.
This is the mayor of the nearby town.
Right.
The powerhouse of Shrewsbury.
Yep. So we turn back around, get to the school, find the assistant principal.
And they're not liking that she's crossing their threshold.
Oh, no. When she walked in, you could tell
All
he was
smiles,
scared.
I'm sure she was. He was scared?
You could tell he was like, oh, shoot, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
Because he knew he had just rejected my posters.
Yes.
And so then she basically just tells him, like, you can't do that. And we start going. And there was another club, I think it was Amnesty International, that had posters up for Women's History Month.
Okay.
And their posters were up. They were allowed to put theirs
all
up,
over
but
the school.
I was, yes,
well, they didn't
all
come
over
under the
school.
Elise Buckley rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So theirs were all up, but he was telling me I couldn't put mine up. So then we go around and my mom points one out and she says, why are theirs allowed to go up? And he said, I don't even remember what the excuse was. But she said, well, you have to take this down right now if she doesn't get to put hers up. And she's, reached her hand up about to take it down. He's like, oh, no, you can't do that. And again, she says, well, you can't tell her. She can't put hers up if there are these other ones up around the school.
Right.
So finally, he just takes that one down, and then we go back to his office and talk, and they get to the point where he says, you're right. We can't
good
say
for
that.
him.
We can't say
sometimes
that.
you just have to chill out. And It's not that big a deal.
I know.
Just let it go up and let people deal with it. It's another point of view. And if they can put up with some points of view, why not the pro-life?
Right.
And so were you able to keep these up on the walls without people taking them down?
These ones, yes. These ones stayed up. No one touched them. The only other thing that happened with these posters was that I was told there was a limit of 25 that I could put up. So I printed
That's
out
pretty
25.
many.
Yep, put it up. But then I went around and counted the number of Amnesty International posters that were put up. I think there was something like 60.
Oh, okay.
And
they had limited you
They
to
had
25.
limited me to 25.
Okay.
And so that also...
All right. Did you make note
frustrated
of that?
me.
Did you let them know that?
I don't think I made a fuss about that one.
Yeah. I probably it's good. I mean, you don't have to make a fuss, but it's always good to acknowledge or to write a note. I did know. I did stick to my 25. I'm not sure why I had to do 25 and they got
Right.
60. And,
Right.
you know, and at least for the record, I think that's always a good thing to do. And I do think to bring in a parent at some point is also a very good thing
Yeah.
to do. I think that from what I understand, the principal and vice principal are fairly congenial people, and they want to maintain a peaceful
Yeah.
school, and they don't want the rancor with students and parents and teachers. So they try to be accommodating. At least you did not have to deal with a kind of a semi witch hunt where you had to prove that you were operating in good faith and it was all perfectly healthy thing to do. Okay, so is there anything else that you would like to say that the club did? I mean, to initiate something is a huge thing to begin with, and then to do the get the flyers out there. Were there other things that you got to do?
Not very many. I had the regional coordinator for Students for Life of America come in and talk.
To whom?
To the club.
Oh, okay.
And
that's a good thing.
I invited the presidents. There were multiple presidents of the Feminist Coalition.
Oh, good.
I invited them to come and listen, and they did.
They did. Oh, good.
They did, I was really happy that
wonderful.
they showed up.
And did they? What did they say?
Well, the woman talked about abortion procedures.
Oh dear.
Which is a very heavy topic, of course.
Yeah, of course. That's what it's about.
Yeah. And they were shocked.
They were shocked?
I think
they don't know these things?
Most people, or at least a lot of the people in that school did not. They don't really they're just told, this is a woman's right.
Right. It's a right. So it just happens by kind of wishful thinking.
And it's a clump
right
of cells,
and it's gone.
of course. It's a clump of tissue.
Oh.
It's not a human person that's in there. And
Right.
so...
Which is not even in their own literature. I mean, most of their own literature is, you have to put together the body parts to make sure that you did have a complete abortion. I mean, even the doctors say that now.
Yeah.
Some of the abortion doctors are saying, look, we have to get over the fact that it's bloody. It is bloody. Mm-hmm. And, we have to deal with that. But I found that amusing because a woman was objecting to all those awful pictures that the pro-lifers show, and the pro-abort doctor was saying, well, that is what an abortion is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad that they heard this. Mm-hmm. It's just a seed, it's the beginning of something.
Yeah.
And it's so disturbing that they can have so much time in sex education and contraception and abortion, but never tell the kids what an abortion really is. So, bless you for just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really good thing to do. And then, anything else that would...
I'd say the other greatest impact that we had was, again, with the heart display. There was a Facebook page for the community and for the parents, and a girl posts in there. There's this pro-life club, and they have this display on the wall, and I don't think it should be there,
Oh.
and all of this stuff. And it started a community-wide conversation about whether
really?
or not this pro-life club should be allowed to put displays up.
Did they have the picture of your complete display?
No.
Oh.
That's the frustrating part,
Oh.
is never once did someone say what the display was.
Oh.
And I think some people assumed that it was graphic images.
Yes.
And it's a big heart made of little hearts. Like, you
Yes.
can't be really
Yeah, you
mad
can't,
about that.
Yeah, who could
So
quarrel with that?
no one ever posted what it was. They were just arguing about whether or not the pro-life club should even exist in the school. And so that was probably the biggest impact, starting the community conversation about a pro-life club.
Which is a very good thing.
Yeah.
Now, you had already told me that no one picked it up this year. No one could
Yeah,
step into your shoes.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but that never means what you did was, wasted in any way. You sowed a lot of seeds, and you made people uncomfortable, and that's a great apostolate.
Yeah.
And who knows? Someone next year might do it, but I know that people think the way you do, but they're afraid to deal with the conflict, and they're not as confrontational. A lot of people think that they're really big on these issues and they're really strong, but really a lot of people stay in their comfort zone, and
Right.
I don't hold it against them. You do pray for leaders, and you do pray for people to just accept that they're not, sometimes you're just not going to be comfortable. But, what you did was in a way very simple. And in other words, you can just get it started. And, it doesn't have to be a huge number of projects to have an impact. You can have, anyone out there can just plan a few things a year. You start out simply, and who cares if it's just a few people doing it. Did you have any guys in the club?
Well, my little brother, of course, came to every
yeah.
single one.
Oh, good for him.
I made him. There were a couple, I think like 2 or 3 other guys, but so not very many.
Yeah, and it is definitely the kind of thing that can grow, and I hope somebody will continue that. And
Yeah.
so bless you, Elyse, for starting it, and I hope you inspire some other people to do the same. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.